Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I welcome a very special guest, Rachel Goff, who is a junior on the Lindenwood women's hockey team. Rachel, welcome to the podcast, and how's everything going?
Hi, thanks for having me. Everything's going good. I'm excited.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Rachel. I really appreciate it. Now, how's your off season going, and have you done anything interesting, whether it's hockey or non-hockey related?
Yeah, I've been working a lot this summer and working out a lot, just preparing for the upcoming season. Yeah, making that money for school, and I'm excited for the season to start.
That's awesome to hear. And what job do you have, and what are you working on with
I
that?
am I was a server. I'm done now getting ready for school, but yeah, I made some good money doing that and just wanted to focus on hockey for the summer and be excited for the upcoming season. So
Well, I tip my cap to you for being a server because that's one of the hardest jobs. I did it a couple of times in high school, but it's one of the hardest jobs ever. So I tip my cap to you. Some of those customers you have to deal with is pretty hard.
yeah, for sure. But you gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you have any like customer service stories you want to talk about here, or not? It was just like an overall good experience for you.
It was a pretty good experience. You know, you get those customers every once in a while who give you a bad tip, and you're like, you gotta just be like, oh well, there's nothing you can do about it. But you just gotta be the kindest and friendliest that you can in order to get those tips. But it does happen.
hmm Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. But I feel like everyone should work a customer service job at some point in their life, just because you have to, when you deal with people like on a daily basis, it makes you like appreciate going to those spots, like how hard the employees work.
Yeah, and it definitely helps with your communication skills, I would say a lot. You learn how to talk to people, customers, you learn what to do in some not so great situations, you know what I mean? So it's a good business overall just to like be in for a year or two. But yeah,
Mhm.
I've been in the restaurant business since I was 16. That was my first job as a hostess. So yeah, I've upgraded to serving for now.
Yeah, no, I only did it for like a couple of weeks, but my first job was working at a grocery store. That was like my customer service thing. That's what I think it worked better for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think you can translate those communication skills you worked at a restaurant and translate them to hockey by any means, or not really?
I think so because as you grow older, you have to learn how to be able to talk to new people, different experiences, and um, I mean, communicating with new people and strangers can be hard. So I feel like it definitely helps developing those skills, and you're able to get some opportunities from it. So
Well, that's good to hear. And overall, how's your training going, and what are you working on regarding your game for this upcoming season?
So this summer a lot, I've been working on personally like building my endurance through cardio. I felt like that was something based on last season I wanted to improve for this upcoming season. And our trainer at Lindenwood, Colin, he's awesome. He sends out workout schedules to all the players. And so that's like a really good guideline that we have. He's super involved with us over the summers and making sure that everyone's getting the training that they need based on what supplies you may have at home or if you're going to a gym and whatnot. So he's been good with giving outlines for that. So it's been a good summer of training.
Yeah, and going off that answer, what's one area of your game you think you need to improve on the most heading into this upcoming season?
Being a small player, I am 4'11". I always have to work on my strength, being able to keep up with these big players and not be knocked over. And so I feel like getting stronger and building more muscle is super important for me as a player. And that's something that I had talked with my coaches. One of my goals for the summer is to, get a little bit stronger, gain some muscle. So I feel like I've done that, and I hope it helps and translates for this upcoming season.
Now, last offseason, talking to other players, they had to face many challenges preparing for the upcoming season due to the pandemic. Have you faced any challenges compared to last year preparing for the upcoming season with the pandemic still going on?
Last summer was definitely a lot more difficult for me, and especially the Canadians on my team. They were in like a complete shutdown, lockdown last year. I know a lot of them weren't able to get ice time and stuff like that. Um, for me last summer, I was able to get most of the things I needed. The rink ended up opening up like towards the end of the summer last year. So um, it was a little bit of a struggle last summer, but I mean, this summer everything's been open, the gyms, ice rinks, everything like that. So I feel like I've been getting everything I needed, and I feel like I have what I needed to prepare for this upcoming season.
So the approaches were still the same from last offseason and this offseason, just you had more freedom to do what you wanted to do this offseason compared to last one.
Yeah, I feel like there was more materials that I had available this summer to prepare for. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad your off season's going well, Rachel. Now let's start off talking about the beginning of your hockey career and work all the way up to where you are now in college. So you're from Naperville, Illinois. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
I mean, hockey is pretty prominent in Illinois just because I'm in the suburb part of Chicago. So there is some hockey, a lot of hockey around here. My dad played growing up. He's been coaching ever since he was 18 years old. He's finally done coaching after he's 62. So coaching for a long time. So he was always into it. I have an older brother who's 9 years older than me. He played hockey growing up, never too serious. He stopped in high school, and then I actually have a younger brother who's a year and a half younger than me. He started playing hockey before me. My parents put him in the lessons and stuff just because he's a boy, and it's more common for males to be hockey players, especially like 10, 15 years ago. And so there was one time where we all went to the ice rink. My brother had a skating lesson or whatever and didn't want to go on the ice. So my parents had already paid for it, and they just were just like, well, they sent me on the ice just because they didn't want to waste the money. And, the rest is history from there. I loved it. I kept playing, and my parents put me in my own lesson, got me my own gear. And yeah, I played ever since.
Yeah, and what's the hockey scene like in Illinois? Obviously, with the Chicago team doing very well, winning 3 Stanley Cups. What's it like growing up in that hockey environment with the success that the Blackhawks had when you were growing up?
It's awesome being a Chicago Blackhawks fan. Like the community is so awesome. Everyone loves it, and I grew up playing like predominantly with boys, as most girls do. So yeah, I played through the program. It was originally the Flames, and then they became the Chicago Bruins. So I grew up playing there, and no, it's a great hockey. The hockey community is a great community to be a part of.
Now, who's your favorite player growing up, and who did you try to model your game after when you were a kid?
Being a small player myself, I really looked up to the small girl players that I saw. For example, Erica Lawler. I remember growing up watching her. She was on the 2010 Olympics, women's Olympic team, and she's also 4'11", which is my height. So I was like, if she can do it, I can. Height shouldn't be stopping these small players. And then obviously Kendall Coyne is another great example of being a very good small player. So yeah, I love watching up and watching these girls be able to compete and like stay in the game with all the rest of the players.
Have you gotten the chance to meet Kendall Coyne at all? I know she played for the Mission a few years ago.
Yeah, she did play for the Mission. I was also a part of this program for a couple years called the West Coast Selects team. And this was like a travel team kind of. I got the opportunity to play in Helsinki, Finland, and Italy, Bolzano, Italy. And Kendall Coyne was actually the assistant coach, just helping out with the players and stuff. So I was able to, get some coaching advice from her. And yeah, I was able to meet Erica Lawler actually a couple years ago at the one of my national championships. She was actually there being one of the talk hosts or something like that for the nationals, which was really cool to see. These women moving up in the hockey world, and you see how Kendall Coyne's so involved with like the Blackhawks nowadays. So it's awesome seeing these women be able to do what they're doing.
Yeah, I know I say this all the time, but Kendall Coyne obviously is one of the best women's hockey players of all time. However, she probably will be remembered for what she's doing now after her playing career with Chicago and just helping grow women in sports in general.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome to see these women like doing amazing things, you know.
Now, before Lindenwood, you played for the Chicago Mission, like I kind of alluded to earlier. How did you get the opportunity to go there, and what was that process like?
So like I said, growing up, I was playing with the boys teams, you know, and then finally you start to get older. And my dad was like, maybe we should, if you're really serious about it, you know, maybe start getting into girls hockey. And I was so against it at first. I was like, no, I like playing with the boys, all this stuff. But we had heard great things about the Chicago Mission, and the rink that we grew up playing in was only about 10 minutes from my house. So it was super convenient. And you know, I just started doing spring skates there. And I had like two of my girlfriends from who I played boys hockey with. They were also coming to the skates with me, you know, so I had them there. And we all just eventually, you know, transferred over. I tried out for the team and I made it my first year U12 year. And then you know, the rest is history. I was there for 7 years, so never
Yeah,
thought about switching or anything, but yeah.
yeah, and just talk about your time with the Mission. And you got to play with many D1 commits with the Mission in your time there. One of those players was Lindy Lobdell, who's currently with Penn State, and then Ella Huber, who's going to play with Minnesota for this upcoming season. How did playing with those type of players help your hockey development? And just talk about your experience with those type of players.
Yeah, so the Mission is a super competitive program. You know, they want to produce really good hockey players. Um, I got to play with, you know, so many good players, and like most of our team, by the time I was U19, we were D1 commits. So the environment is super competitive. And by having that kind of environment, you're able to push each other. I was able, you know, I had to keep up with these girls. Otherwise, I wasn't going to play. And yeah, so I think having that competition is so important in making your team better. And that's also something that I'm excited for with Lindenwood this upcoming season. You know, we have some good transfers, we have a decent amount of girls. So it's going to be a super competitive year, and you're going to have to fight for those spots. You know what I mean? At the Mission, it wasn't like your ice time was just given to you. You had to fight for it and you had to compete for it. And I'm so grateful I got to play with all these girls. Lindy's one of my best friends, you know, like we worked together this summer. She's in our conference. So you build these great relationships with these girls as well. And it's such a great community.
Now, how did the Mission ultimately help prepare you for college hockey when you were heading into RIT for your freshman season?
Growing up at the Mission, I wouldn't say they're strict, but you know, we had this type of culture of no excuses. That was like on our helmets. This no excuses. So, you know, we had to behave and we had to like respect our coaches. And if we made mistakes, you know, it was okay to make mistakes, but like we were able to learn from these mistakes. And I feel like that's such a great culture and environment to grow up in, because it helps you prepare for college. It helps you learn to respect your coaches. And, you know, when you get to college, it's not like it's given to you. Like in youth hockey, you have to earn your ice time if you want to be there. And it's so important to respect your coaches, because you know, if you don't respect them, then they're not going to play you and they can just kick you off the team. So I mean, growing up with the Mission, it was a great environment, and it really helped prepare everybody for college. I mean, um, I know like all my friends, like we all say how much it prepared us, and it was a great environment to grow up in.
Now, take me back to your original recruitment process with RIT. What was that like for yourself, and why did you originally commit there versus other schools you might have looked at?
Um, so at the Mission, we do have our college coordinator, Tom Mandarino. He's great, and he's so helpful with this process. And I believe at that time, now you can't go on visits until you're a junior in high school, I believe, or something like that. But I was able to be reached out through some schools as long as they went through our college coordinator, and I was able to do some visits like my freshman and sophomore year of high school. I was able to go out and visit these schools and talk with these coaches. And you know, when I went to RIT, I really love. They had a new arena, a new facility that was only like 2 years old, and it was a great space to play. I loved the school, and I loved the coach who had committed me at the time. it was a different coach than when I actually got to the school, but I loved him. It was like everything that I was looking for, and I knew that at RIT I could be a top player. So that was something I also took into consideration when committing. Like, I didn't want to go. I may have gone to a top school, but if I wasn't playing, then that wasn't going to matter to me. I wanted to be somewhere where I could make an influence and where I could be a part of something great and, have an impact on the team.
Yeah, and coming into college hockey, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make? Was it the speed of the game or just the physicality since you're going against players that are 4 and 3 years older than you were at the time?
Yeah, I would say that the change in speed and pace of the game from youth hockey to college is huge. It's so much more faster. I remember our first game that we had at college was an exhibition game, which is what a lot of schools do. And I just remember the pace was so much faster, and I was playing with girls who were 3, 4 years older than me, so I had to be able to keep up and compete. But once you start playing, I mean, you transition into it, you get used to it, and it ultimately just helps you become a better player being at this fast-paced games and playing with these older girls because you're able to develop more.
Yeah, definitely. And in your first year with RIT, you made it to the CHA playoffs, and you unfortunately lost to Penn State in those playoff.
Mhm.
What did you take away from that playoff game, and has that helped you? Or what did you take away from that playoff game that has helped heading into your upperclassmen years with Lindenwood?
So my freshman year, I really like the CHA conference because I feel like, you know, every team is beatable. Like one game the underdog could win, you know what I mean? And so we had played Penn State. You play each team in the conference 4 times. So we had played Penn State earlier in the year and we had lost. And then later in the year, we had actually swept Penn State, which was the first time we ever did that in RIT program history. So, I mean, that was a huge accomplishment for us being the underdogs. And that's how we got to that spot in the lineup to be able to play Penn State for the CHA rankings. So, coming into the playoff game against them, we knew that it was doable. We knew that it was beatable, that they were beatable, and that anything was possible. But yeah, just that game, they were just more prepared, Penn State, and it's okay that we lost. And I think that something I took away from it was as long as I did my best, I went out there and gave it my all. That's all that matters. Something I like to use is control what you can control, and that's something that's big on my team at Lindenwood. Our team environment is just control what you can control, and as long as you're doing your best, it doesn't matter. So that's something that I took away from that game and that I've been using for this past year as well. And yeah.
Yeah, and what's it like playing in the CHA? Just talk about the teams you get to play on a consistent basis because it's a bit of a smaller conference. However, there's a lot of good schools that are in that conference that can compete for a national tournament berth.
Yeah, like I said before, the CHA it's very unpredictable. A lot of the other conferences, like WCHA, you see like Minnesota or Wisconsin dominating most of the time. But I mean, if you look throughout the year, in the CHA, the different teams that we've played, you see Mercyhurst winning one game, or RIT like beat that team or whatever. So yeah, coming into the playoffs last year, Penn State was the #1 seed. They were expected to win, but when Robert Morris won, it was kind of like an upset, and it proved that anybody can win. And I think it really helped our program, or it helped other people to see that we have 2 top teams now. Even like Penn State was ranked in the top 10. However, Robert Morris beat them. You know what I mean? So that's also another thing that's kind of sad is when we see that Robert Morris's program got cut, it's kind of like a big defeat for the whole CHA league because we're trying to move up and we want to be up there and competing with the WCHA and the Hockey East, and we want to get up there. But when unfortunate things like that happens, it kind of gives us a setback. So
Yeah, and just a little question on that. So I was reading somewhere where like the CHA is now like under the limit of teams that can make it to like the national tournament. Like it's like 6 team limit. Like what's the whole situation with that?
So for that, um, the reason we are able to get one bid spot, the CHA, to the national tournament is because we have at least 6 teams. Um, I know that like the division that LIU is in, I believe it's the EC. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but they don't have enough teams to get a bid spot to the tournament. So now that we had 6, now that we only have 5, that does affect us. However, we do get a 2-year like bypass. So for the next 2 years, we will be getting a bid spot to the national tournament. So, I mean, I'm not sure if we're looking at maybe adding a team to our division. I know that some Division 3 schools are up and coming and becoming Division 1. I know that St. Thomas just recently became Division 1, and Adrian last year was playing games against Mercyhurst and Robert Morris. So I'm not sure if maybe they're thinking about moving up as well. But yeah, if we want a bid spot to the tournament, we're gonna have to find another team to join our division, unfortunately.
In 2 years, not the next two
In
years.
2 years,
Yeah.
yes. If we do get a bypass, we will be sending the number 1 team for the next 2 years to the tournament, which is good because I still have 2, possibly 3 more years with that extra year of eligibility. But yeah.
Yeah, and Robert Morris is reportedly trying to come back with the new hockey program. I know that situation's a bit complicated, so maybe they can come back and it just be 6 teams like it normally was.
Yeah. Even if they do come back, I mean, most of their girls, unfortunately had to go on the transfer portal. So even if they do come back, it will be a completely different team and a different program.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, no, that's something that a lot of people aren't considering regarding that situation as well. So that's something to definitely think about. But I appreciate you answering that question because it was something I was genuinely curious about.
yeah, it's unfortunately very sad, like it's so sad to see how we were like up and coming, and now that was kind of just ripped apart from us. But
Yeah, definitely. And being in the CHA, I think it was cool to see like how many good players that the conference is producing. You can just look at some of the Canadian and U.S. national teams, and a lot of those players are playing at CHA schools. So it's just showing like how the conference was just kept growing. So it was just definitely a disappointment. Obviously, like I was disappointed in the players in that whole school just because those players might have lost their opportunity to play college hockey. But then you look at the bigger picture and it affects more than just Robert Morris, which is something that I think some people aren't considering as well.
yeah, that's why it's so unfortunate and sad to see this loss in the program. But yeah, I'm excited to see if we will have a team that will replace them. And it does shake things up for the CHA, and it does shake things up for us because now that Robert Morris is no longer there, it gives Lindenwood an opportunity to move up, and to be able to compete with the previously higher teams such as Penn State and Mercyhurst. So things are always changing, and I know that our coaches have big things coming for us. Where our team is definitely going to be competing this year to be up there. So,
Yeah, and talk about what it was like transferring to Lindenwood and what made you want to go there versus other schools that you were thinking about transferring to, and what was the reason why you decided to leave RIT?
um, so transfer portal, it's always a hard thing for players. I just felt like, it was the right decision for me. There was a lot of stuff going on behind scenes, like with coaching and stuff like that. Another thing for me was just financially. RIT doesn't offer athletic scholarships. It's a D3 school. The only programs that are D1 is the hockey team. So they didn't offer a financial scholarship, and I just felt like I could find somewhere better that was better financially for me and a better fit team. So it was a hard decision going on the transfer portal. It was, I didn't want to leave my friends, obviously, and I had a great year with my teammates, but I just felt like it was the right decision for me. And so I went on the transfer portal, and going back to the mission, Tom Mandarino was a big help for me. Even though I did the mission, he was still willing to help me. And I got to talking to a bunch of schools from the transfer portal. And like good confidence. Lindenwood did reach out. I was super excited that the coaches had reached out to me, and just I got to talking with them, and everything they said about the team atmosphere, I just loved, and I was so excited. And I knew that the coaches were going to do great things in these next upcoming years. Our coaches are great, and I'm so excited to be playing for them, and we do have big things coming. So
Yeah, I know, and it's the transfer portal is obviously something that a lot of people don't realize, like how it's kind of a different process from the recruiting process. What was your mindset during the whole transfer portal situation with yourself?
um, for committing to schools, it's never about like, oh, I want to go to this school. It's about which coaches reach out to you. So, I said I'm just going to go on the transfer portal, see who reached out to me. I got a bunch of D3 schools that reached out, and I just told them I'm looking for a D1 school right now. I felt like I could still compete in that level, so I wanted to see which schools reached out to me, and I got a couple, and I just felt like Lindenwood was the best decision because I felt like, again, it was a team that I could definitely have an impact on, and I could make big things happen, and I could help change that atmosphere and hopefully help them become a top team, these upcoming 2-3 years. So
Yeah, now I want to talk a little bit about this past season that you were just in. There's obviously many challenges that your team faced because of the pandemic, like all teams had to face during the college hockey season last year. One of those challenges not playing in front of any fans. How'd you adjust to that, not having that crowd noise? And was it weird just playing in front of like no atmosphere for the most part?
um I would say it was a little disappointing not having fans. My family wasn't able to come to our arena and stuff like that, but um just like COVID and everything else, we knew it was going to be a different year. We knew that things were going to be different, and we just had to work through it. And um I mean, just even fans or not, we still had to work hard. We still had to play our best. It doesn't matter if there were fans or not. And I think we did a good job adjusting to that. And yeah, it was a hard year, obviously, lots of changes, but I feel like that no fans kind of went in with the craziness of everything else. We were already dealing with so much that it was like, what's one more thing? You know what I mean? So, and hopefully we have fans this year, and we have out of conference games this year, which will be exciting. It was super hard only playing conference games last year because you get exhausted playing the same teams over and over, and it can become hard mentally and challenging. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's something that it was definitely weird not seeing just only conference games, but I was just really just happy just to see, hockey being played, whether it was out of conference games or not, or just conference games in general. But um,
And yeah, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that we even got to play these conference games. You know what I mean? The Ivy League schools, they didn't even get a
mhm.
season. Other schools like Union, a lot of D3 schools. So I'm just grateful that we even got a season in general.
Yeah, and like, how'd you try to bring the energy on the ice when you were playing those games? Because obviously you're super grateful to be playing hockey, but you also want to try to bring the energy that was lost without having those fans in the stands. So, like, when there was a big block shot or a big play that some people might have noticed, did the bench go crazy? Because that's something that I've noticed watching college hockey this past year, especially without the crowd noise.
Yeah, our team is super big on like making that noise, encouraging your teammates. Being an underdog team, we do have to come and bring that energy. And if the fans aren't there, we're going to have to bring the energy ourselves. So we have a good team atmosphere. We don't like negativity on the bench. When somebody does a good play, you want to hype them up, you want to cheer them up, you want to get the team going. And that's how we were able to stay in some of these games, was we had better team energy than the other team. Even though they may have been the better team, like, we would stay in these games. And yeah, we brought that energy for each other because we had to, since there was no one in the stands doing it.
And how'd you deal with all the schedule changes that happened to your schedule, especially towards the beginning of the season with all the postponements that took place?
Yeah, it was difficult. You know, we would look forward to games and then it would be like, oh, it got postponed again. Um, but yeah, just like all the other challenges, we had to just control what we could control and just keep putting in that work. And we knew that our time was going to come eventually, but um, yeah, we just had to remember that we had to control what we can control because there was nothing we could do about it. So.
Now, something that all student athletes have to deal with is balancing both their sport and academics at such a high level. But obviously, with last year, with things being so different, how did you balance both hockey and school, especially with school mostly being online?
Well, growing up, I have been balancing hockey and school my entire life. Playing at the Mission, we would travel almost every weekend, going to tournaments. I would miss schools Thursday, Fridays, all the time, and so I have been dealing with that my whole life. You know, I know how to talk to my professors, and um, I I just have to let them know ahead of time that I'll be gone or whatever. I won't be able to make this class. And honestly, the online classes this past year made it easier because I didn't have a set time going to class. I could work my school schedule around my hockey schedule. So that honestly made it easier for me. I chose to take like one or two all online classes this year just because I did like it so much. And um, you're able to manage things better because you're able to do it on your own time, you know? So.
Yeah, no, that was definitely one benefit towards online learning. However, there was also some negatives about it as well. So that was like an adjustment for most people, I think, was trying to deal with some of the negatives that online learning has, but also enjoying the positives as well. Which one of those things was better time management skills, just because you have more free time with the online classes, because you can make your schedule a little more freely, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Now, one highlight from this past season was how Lindenwood swept your former team RIT in a weekend series. How did it feel to sweep that series, especially since you scored the game-winning goal on the second game of that series? And just talk about what you took away from those victories.
Yeah, I was definitely nervous playing against them, playing against your former team. I saw my teammates. It was helpful that it wasn't against my old coach. There was a new coach, Celeste Brown, there. So that took a little bit of the pressure off. But, I had some pressure on me. I felt like I had to perform for whatever reason, but I just kept, just kept working and um, on the bench, my coaches, they're really good about like not putting so much pressure on me. Like they were letting me know like it's okay and like you don't have to like you know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
they were helping relieve that pressure from me, but I knew that I had this fire lit under me and that I wanted to not prove them wrong in a way, but I wanted to like show that I was doing good here at this new program. And so when I scored that goal, it was like a huge like relief of pressure almost because I was like finally, and that had actually been my first goal of the season, so it was just an awesome place to get that goal in my old arena.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And unfortunately, this past season, you lost to Syracuse in the playoffs, in the CHA playoff game that you were in. What did
Mhm.
you take away from that game overall, and how are you going to use that game for motivation heading into your junior season? And what do you think needs to be done from your team's perspective to get over that hump and win a playoff game?
um I feel like our team, that was definitely not our best performance. We were definitely disappointed with how we performed that game, but um, we tried our best. We went out there, and I know that for this upcoming season, we're remembering how we don't want that to happen again, and we're definitely going to be better. And I feel like we definitely could have prepared better for that Syracuse game. I feel like um, a lot of the times going into the playoff games, it's like, well, it's just one and done. But we have to like go into the games wanting to win, wanting to compete. And yeah, they were just the better team again that year. Um, it's it's uh it's sad to see that almost every year the underdogs RIT and Lindenwood, we do usually lose that first playoff game. So um, next year we're going to have that fire under our butt that we want to win that first playoff game. We want to prove that even though we're a lower seed, we can, win, and we can do that. And hopefully we can become a higher seed this year and compete for that spot. So.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the main goal, and obviously that's what you train all off season for is to make it to the playoffs and win in the playoffs and have success. So I wish you and your team all the best of luck regarding that.
Mhm.
Now, one thing that was introduced to college hockey last year was 3-on-3 overtime. As a fan, they're so much fun to watch, but what is it like to play in them as a player?
Um, overtime is hard. We just played 3 periods. It's a hard game. It's like sudden death. There's so much pressure, but our team, we like to play 3-on-3 a lot. It's very fun. It's very competitive for us. We do that a lot for like the first 10 minutes of practice. We'll play it. So we feel prepared when we do the 3-on-3, and we just like to think of it as, competition, and we know that we can do it. So it's hard, but you got to do what you got to do.
And obviously, in those overtime situations, you have to think about the defensive part of the game as well, because I feel like that's something that most fans don't consider. So, does being in those overtime situations make you more defensively aware? Because if you make one little defensive mistake, it can cause an odd man rush.
Yeah, you definitely have to be more careful with how you handle the puck. I feel like it's more risky with what you do with the puck compared to 5-on-5, because there's more players during 5-on-5. So if you make a mistake, there's more to cover up for it. So you have to be super tedious with the puck, and be careful with your passes, and every shot matters. Every opportunity matters for sure in 3-on-3, because one little mistake and it can be so easy for the other team to capitalize. So you definitely got to be careful.
Now you're heading into your junior season, which means you're going to be one of the leaders in the locker room. What type of leadership do you want to bring to the team, and are you more of a vocal or lead by example type of player?
I feel like I'm more of a lead by example type player. Last year transferring onto the team, I didn't want to come off too much of like a big ego or anything like that, because the girls my age had already been there for a year. Obviously, I'm new. I don't want to like intrude or make anyone feel uncomfortable. So I feel like just leading by example on the ice, as long as I work my hardest, I can hopefully other girls on my team can maybe recognize that, and be like, oh, she's trying hard, she wants this. So I feel like this year, now it being my second year, I'll have a little bit more of a voice, especially being an underclassman, or an yeah or a what is it, overclassman,
Upperclassmen.
upperclassman, yeah. And so I'll be able to, if the freshmen need help, I'll be able to voice an opinion. And but yeah, I feel like I'm more of a lead by example type player, a hard worker. So
Now, what are some of your goals and expectations for yourself and for your team next year? Obviously, for your team, you hope to win the CHA championship, but is there something else that, some people might not consider that you hope your team can achieve this upcoming season?
I think my goal, along with a lot of my teammates, will be finishing the puck. We had so many opportunities last year getting the puck to the net. So I feel like really capitalizing on those opportunities will make the difference between some of these like 1-2 goal games that we had, because by actually like getting the puck in the net, we'll be able to win some points and win these games. So that's definitely a big focus that we were working on during the spring season, and like April and May as a team, we were working on that a lot. So I know that I'll personally be working on that, burying the puck, and I know a lot of my teammates will be too, especially the forwards.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I just ask you some non-hockey questions just to get to know you a little bit off the ice. My first question to you is, besides hockey, what sport do you like to watch?
Um, I feel like I've recently been getting into I really like watching the Olympics, the gymnastics. I'm a huge fan watching, and I really like watching volleyball in the Olympics. So those are some sports I've been interested in.
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to watch the Olympics that much, to be honest with you, just because of the time zone difference between here and Japan. So
Hmm.
I haven't really got this chance to see, but some of those I remember in 2012 when the Olympics were in London, it was pretty cool to see the U.S. gymnastics team pretty much just dominate
Yeah.
the competition and win gold.
Yeah, growing up, I always loved watching the gymnastics event in for the U.S. It's awesome to watch these girls.
I was more of my favorite Olympic sport is probably for at least I'm more of a Winter Olympics fan. I think there's more sports there that I'm interested in, but I for the obviously for the Summer Olympics I'm into basketball, hockey, basketball, soccer, and the baseball that was introduced this year as well. So those are obviously the sports I'm interested in here, like in a general basis. But obviously it's cool to see it in the Olympics as well. But fencing that was pretty cool to see
Hmm.
some highlights for that sport. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I feel like this summer I was kind of getting into a lot of sports that I never have really watched before, like basketball, the NBA playoffs. I was watching some of that, and soccer. There was that big game with Italy and England,
hmm
and yeah.
Well, I've always been a huge soccer fan, and that Italy England game was very fun. It was the Euro Championship, so I've been really getting into it. And obviously, my club team, Manchester United, is playing in the Premier League coming up. So hopefully, they could win this year. So that's my team. And then with the U.S. national team kind of growing and getting better, it's good. Hopefully, soccer can grow here in the U.S., which I think would be a cool thing to see.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see like the women's sports growing. There was that whole thing with March Madness. I don't know if you saw how the
Mhm.
girls were treated compared to the men. The weight room they had, the women had like a few dumbbells, and the men had that whole giant thing. So it's awesome to see women voicing their opinion, and with the new NIL with the NCAA athletes. There's so many women athletes, basketball players, gymnastics players, hockey players who are voicing their opinion, and people are seeing that, girls are good at sports too. Like it's fun to watch girls' sports as well.
Yeah, I know. I was watching some of the college softball World Series, which was really fun to watch. And I was reading somewhere where the college softball World Series had more viewers than the college baseball World Series. So I think just having that exposure will help grow women's sports, as you mentioned.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So, what is your favorite TV show, non-sports related? For me, that's tough because all I do is watch sports on TV. But I'm curious if you watch anything else besides sports.
I love Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is my all-time favorite show. Um, yeah, I've watched it twice now, and then there's a movie, El Camino. I just love it.
I've actually never seen Breaking Bad, so I
You
probably
have
should
to.
get on that.
I tell everybody, if you are gonna watch one show, it has to be Breaking Bad. It's so good.
Yeah, I have to. It's just hard because you like look at there's like 8 seasons. It's like I don't know if I have the time to watch all these episodes. So it
Yeah,
just I have to like find some time to like kind of chip away and get through a series like that.
yeah.
Now, who is your favorite actor? And if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play you in a movie?
Who would I want to play in a movie?
Who would you want to play yourself in a movie if there was a movie made about your life?
Who would I want to play myself? If there was a movie about myself, I would definitely want it to be about hockey and growing up, maybe like a documentary or something. Honestly, I don't really know that many women actors, but probably just a small, tiny one like me.
You know, I would say like for myself, just someone that like Pete Davidson, I think would be cool, just because we have
Okay,
the same sense of humor. We don't look nothing alike, but I just think it'd be cool to have him play me in a movie. So that's my perspective on that.
okay, awesome.
Now, speaking of your teammates, who's the funniest on the team in your opinion?
I would say that myself is definitely up there. I feel like I crack some pretty good jokes. And our goalie, Julia McGuire, super silly gal, very interesting. She's super funny.
Now, who has the best style on the team besides yourself?
Um, Casey Adamy, very stylish. She'll come to practice in some nice Lulu workout sets, very stylish. So,
Now, what music do you like to listen to on a general basis?
um, I'm a type of person who likes to listen to a lot of different types of music. Sometimes I'll be in my country phase. sometimes I'll be in like my top phase. I really like Machine Gun Kelly recently. He has
Hmm.
like a new album, so yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's a good album. I definitely agree with you on that.
yeah.
Now back to some hockey questions. Now, my first one is we were talking about women's sports. What do you think should be done to help grow women's hockey specifically?
I think it's awesome, like how we talked about before, Kendall Coyne being so involved with the Blackhawks, and my old coach from the Mission, Mary DiBartolo, is um, very, very high up in the Blackhawks industry as well. You know, she's helped recruiting these players for the NHL, these male players, and it's awesome to see how women are being involved in this decision making. And it's because it used to just be all men, you know, making these decisions, and so it's awesome to see these women moving up. And I think social media has been so helpful with that as well. And as long as these female athletes keep fighting and keep voicing their opinion, I think that it should keep continuing to grow.
Yeah, and obviously we see a lot of men's head coaches in women's hockey. How long do you think it would take for a women's head coach to coach a men's hockey team
Um, like an NHL team,
or a college hockey team?
I feel like that. I feel like we're not quite there yet, but I feel like that's definitely it's definitely in the near future. You know, uh, there has to be that same respect level, like men respecting women hockey players, and as long as we continue to grow that and keep that respect, I think that that is very possible in the near future.
Would you ever want to coach a men's hockey team after your playing career?
I personally don't think I would. I would maybe consider a women's team, but um, if it was a men's team, I feel like it would have to be like a high school team or something not that high level, just because I don't feel like I myself is as qualified as a coach for that. But I think that there definitely are women out there who will be qualified enough in order to do that.
Now, speaking of coaching, what advice would you give a younger player who's trying to pursue a career in college hockey?
I would give them the advice of, you know, there's lots of labels growing up and lots of pressure, like you need to be D1, you need to be Division 1, and Division 1 is always the goal. However, I feel like people underestimate D3 teams, you know, like a lot of the times there are D3 teams that can beat Division 1 teams, and I think it just depends on on the player themselves, how committed they are to the game. And when looking for colleges, I feel like it would be okay to, you know, to go on different visits between D1 and D3 schools. I feel like you should always keep your options open, because it doesn't hurt to go on those visits, you know, and just see what the environment is like. And, you know, sometimes people aren't as committed at the college level. Like they want something a little bit more relaxed that would be maybe like a good route for club hockey or something like that. So I think it's always
Yeah,
good to keep your options open.
yeah. No, someone told me one time, it's like if someone ever tells you you're a good D3 college hockey player, that's like a huge accomplishment because there's many players that can't even make it to that level. So it's still
Mm-hmm.
like a big thing to be a D3 hockey player. So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, and you know, anywhere you play, you're still going to have the same college experience. Just because you're a D3 team, that doesn't mean that you don't take it as seriously. You know, I have a lot of teammates from the Mission who play D3 now, and it's just as demanding and just as competitive. And between like what the coaches want, you're still practicing and working out, you know, the same as a D1 team most of the time. So,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. Now, before I let you go, is there any shout outs you'd like to give to your teammates, family members, or friends?
um, I'd like to shout out my dad. He will be traveling a lot to see my games this year, so I'm super excited for that. And my teammates, go Lindenwood, my
Mhm.
coaches, everybody. And yeah, thank you so much for letting me come on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for coming on, Rachel. It means a lot to me, and I wish you all the best for this upcoming season with Lindenwood, and take care and stay safe.